Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, today we rolled into Inner West Street to visit Annapolis and Arundel County and the convention and business center. I wouldn't say it's a convention because we don't do really conventions.
We do not. We really are a destination marketing and management organization.
But we're speaking with Kristen Pironis, who has very many titles. She is the CEO of Visit Annapolis and Arundel County. I think you may be called the executive director. Is that correct or is not?
When I started, I was the executive director, and last year I was promoted to CEO.
Okay. And you've also been promoted to the expert podcast avoider because we've been trying to do this for like 4 years. Okay.
I mean, to be fair, that's the one I wear. Like, that's the point of pride for me, the expert podcast avoider. Yeah.
I was going to say, and then you get on Pittman's podcast, and I said, okay, well, the gloves are off. We need to go. We need to figure this
Totally
out.
Fair. Totally. Yes. Now I'm making, I guess, the podcast.
Well,
circuit.
my only other target here in the county so far is now Brian Riddle over at Homestead Gardens. So he's been avoiding me for a while. So
he now has the title.
He does.
All right.
He does. So we'll
Good
see how
guy.
that goes. How that goes. But thank you so much for making time to talk with us today. You just mentioned that Visit Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. Can I just shorten it to Visit Annapolis just
Sure.
for this?
Sure.
But has a much
It's
longer
a very
name.
long name. It's very long. We know that Anne Arundel County is implied.
Well, that's like when I started Eye on Annapolis, people were like, well, why do you focus on Anne Arundel County when it's called Eye on? Because Anne Arundel is a big, long word. Nobody knows how to spell it. And this is easier.
Works for me.
But Visit Annapolis is a destiny marketing organization for Anne Arundel County, the entire county, as well as Annapolis, which is sort of like the heartbeat, I guess, of Anne Arundel County to a degree. But I mean, how important is tourism to the county?
So tourism to the county is really important. And we do have some numbers back from 2024, and Annapolis and Anne Arundel County make up 20% of the tourism for the entire state of Maryland. So that is a really big industry for us. And right now it's considered a legacy industry as the state is focused on some big lighthouse industries around quantum, tech, and all of that, which we fully support. But without a quality of life that tourism and tourism assets bring, you're not going to be able to attract any businesses.
Well, I know that I've always heard that in just nationwide, I mean, people don't realize the tentacles that are associated with tourism. Okay. You think of like, okay, great. They've got the buses and they got the little ladies with the flags hanging up and follow me up. And here's St. Anne's Church and here's the State House. And, okay, that's low hanging fruit. But when you talk about let's right across the street, we'll talk about Ram's Head on stage. Okay. They've got national acts that sit there and come in. We've got acts that are coming into St. John's College that they're putting there. These are folks that are traveling regionally and they're there. So we've got the servers that are there. You go up into the airport, you've got the guys that are parking the cars, that are driving the buses, that are slinging the bags, hopefully with care. So it really is, the hotels people and everything else, it really is a far-reaching industry. As an industry in the nation, I think it is probably one of the top employers in the nation. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And it's interesting that that was your perception because it was mine as well. When I first started the role, I shouldn't probably say this on a recorded podcast, but I didn't think it was really serious business until I started digging into it and meeting with our partners, the hoteliers, the different accommodations, the restaurants, as you mentioned, the attractions. All of these are small businesses in our community and all of them are residents of our community. So it really is this entire tourism and hospitality infrastructure that really fuels this economic impact and economic engine. So it's really so much more interesting than just the visitor center, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, and again, Annapolis is such a cool place to live. And I am a huge fan of being a tourist in your own town. I do love to get out onto the Harbor Queen or, the Woodwind or the Wilma Lee and just to go tour the museums that we've got. And we've just got a wonderful thing. Because I learned something new every single time. I've been here, I'm running out of fingers and toes, but, more than I think 25 years or something like that I'm learning something new every single day because we've got history that dates back to way back when. And let's face it, I mean, just because we're Annapolis, I mean, yes, it does attract people. People don't come just because it's Annapolis. I mean, that's the efforts that you guys put forth to say, wave that flag. Hey,
Absolutely. That is one thing when people talk about marketing a destination, like, oh, Annapolis, and they don't need marketing. People are just going to come. That's just not true. What we really do is twofold here. Yes, there's the marketing side. So we're trying to attract visitors into Annapolis and Anne Arundel County from a couple of hours away to, a world away. And then the other side of it is when we advertise this destination, we want to make sure we live up to the promise. And that's really where the destination management comes in. So we work with our local partners on making sure that their operating hours make sense for when we have groups here, making sure that things are open. A restaurant is open on a Monday night as opposed to being closed. And so it really is just making sure that we live up to that promise that we have in our marketing. And that's really where I think we can make a huge difference to the quality of life for our residents, is in that destination management.
Well, it's funny. I was just coming here from the parking garage, and there was a group. I'm going to presume they were international visitors. Okay, it was a Japanese family, I think but a group of Japanese, very limited English, and she's got the phone and she's turning around in circles, and and she's going, wait, no, we go this way, no, wait, and she's turning around again, trying to get the bearings and stuff like that. I'm like, where are you looking to go? And she says, chicken roost. I said, okay, go. She was going to go back down on Northwest Street. I said, okay, go down this brick path, you go take a left. When you see the church, figure that's a clock. Exit off at about 1:30. Is the road that you can see the water down there. Go down that road, and it's about a long block down on your right.
I love that. I love that because our residents are our best ambassadors, right? So everyone that lives here is so proud of what they have. And when they see people struggling, I can't tell you how many times I'm coming out of the parking garage, same exact thing. Somebody's got their app trying to figure out which way to go, and I help them. I'm like, wow, you're so nice. I'm like, everybody in this community is nice. I don't tell them technically I'm getting paid to actually help them.
Right, okay.
But they have a good first impression, just like they did with you.
Well, it really is. And I mean, and I've always said it just in life in general that it takes a lot of work to be a jerk. It's a lot easier to be nice.
Yep.
Or to say nothing.
Yeah, I live by that. I have to say, I think that there's some quotes about how basically travel is so good for just being nice, right? So you're going to different communities. So when we travel elsewhere, people help us and we don't even realize that they're helping us. So we learn about this community. When people come here, we welcome them in and help them out. And it just makes, I think, people nicer. And I think at the end of the day, we all just want to have a better life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get back to Visit Annapolis, but I mean, we talked about tourism having all these tentacles that operate, everywhere else. But where does this organization, this tentacles? I mean, we've got so many, I don't say resources, but so many attractions and really cool things in the county. I mean, you can go out to West County and you've got the Cryptological Museum. You've got certainly you've got Maryland Live. You've got everything that comes into the hall there. You've got the casino. You've got the mall. You've got BWI, which is a huge driver for pretty much the whole Mid-Atlantic. And we're a gateway. Well, Baltimore's a gateway to us. We're a gateway to Baltimore. But I mean, you've got that. You've got the Eastern Shore, but you've certainly got Annapolis, and you've got South County, which is really. I mean, do you represent and get out into all of those?
Yes, and I'll even go further than that, is because while our county officials certainly care about those county lines, our visitors don't, and so we work regionally with Visit Baltimore, Visit Montgomery, Visit Howard, Visit Queen Anne's, Experience Prince George's. They have a different name. But we really work that way because we know we're not competing with one another. We're competing with the other states that are trying to get these tourists and these visitors to come in. So you mentioned BWI. They're probably one of our most critical partners. And one of the things that we recognize fairly early on is somebody lands at BWI, Marshall Airport, and they think they're in Baltimore. So our marketing folks said, nope, let's make sure that they know they're in Anne Arundel County. So we invested in a pretty decent marketing campaign there to really say, welcome, let's help you.
When you get off of Southwest and you're heading to your baggage claim, those big old posters on the left side of the...
I can't tell you how many people sent me pictures of those. So I'll expect a picture from you with those next. So we are opening a welcome center there in the coming year, and
that's exciting.
It's really exciting. We've been talking about it for a number of years. We did.
That's really stupid that you didn't have it. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So fair point, but I'm not going to take stupid, right? But there was a state office there, so the state actually works to sort of those big welcome centers, but they weren't able to have a business model that worked for them there. It was too difficult, but we took a grant from the state and found an operating model that's going to work for us. So we will have a welcome footprint at baggage claim to be able to help people all around the state.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we're excited about that. Really
When's that
excited.
going to come online?
So we are in the design phase right now. And so it will be before August of 2026. And we're really hoping for the May timeframe.
Okay. Is this like a kiosk-y type thing?
It's a little bigger than a kiosk. It's about 400 square feet. So there will be a staffed portion of it. So during busy times, we'll have human beings in there to really welcome you and give you information. And there will be a 24-hour kiosk there as well. So during those off
Self-service
times,
for
exactly
brochures and
similar
maps
to the one
and-
you saw downstairs here.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Very neat.
Yeah, we're
Very-
really excited. That's a huge initiative. You'll have to come to the opening when we do that.
I absolutely will be there. And I know that right now you have one down on City Dock as well. You've got
We
your,
do.
your trailer, which is somewhat of a new acquisition for you. I mean, it's probably what, 6 years, 5-6 years old now?
Interestingly enough, that was a COVID acquisition. So prior to my being here, they did all of that. So a month before I got here, they had it. So they had it outside just to have visitors be safe and comfortable getting information. And now that our booth that was down at City Dock is no longer there, we worked really closely with the city to make sure we still had a presence down there, because we're here on 26 West Street in Gott's Garage. It's a great footprint for us here, and bathrooms and water and people to help you. But we didn't have anything down at City Dock. So the city worked with us. We have that down there. When all of that gets built down there, we'll probably move it somewhere else.
Well, let's talk a little bit about City Dock, because I had that in there. I mean, City Dock is sort of like the crown jewel, as any mayor in the last 70 years has said, of Annapolis. And right now, I know that they've put the fencing up, and the backhoes are there. The backhoes already took out your office and the harbormaster's office and everything else. What kind of impact is that going to have on tourism? I mean, we think we know what it's going to have on businesses that are down there. And I mean, it's going to be a struggle for them.
It is going to be a struggle. I mean, I will say that working with the city, making sure that visitors and residents know that business is still open and we can still do things down there. Having our mobile visitor center down there is certainly going to help just direct people. I think it is worth a temporary inconvenience for where we're going. And so there's a lot of opportunity once everything is set down there, whatever side you're on with buildings and or construction. But it really should be much more visitor friendly, much more welcoming to residents, and really an activation place rather than a parking lot.
Well, sure. I mean, the project itself, I mean, I don't know one person that disagrees with the concept of the project. Okay, why do we have a parking lot on the most beautiful spot in the city?
Exactly. You don't build your garage on your waterfront.
And I also understand and get some of the perks that are in the financing and stuff like that. And that's really kind of getting into the weeds there. I mean, as far as tourism, though, ultimately the reason we're doing this is so residents, visitors all have a beautiful place to gather to experience the beauty of the Chesapeake Bay and the Annapolis Harbor.
I could argue with nothing you just said there. That's exactly what you want down there. And to our point, we want to be where the visitors are, whether that's BWI Marshall or City Dock. So we want to make sure that we have a footprint down there.
Visit Annapolis, you get most of your money from taxes from the hotels.
Yes. So we have a portion of it. It ends up being quite a large portion of it. And that's why most destination marketing organizations are funded that way. So it goes right back into the industry.
And again, it makes sense. I think they, what do they call it? Enterprise funds or something like that with the city, where it's got to sort of regenerate its own self to keep itself ongoing there.
We've tried to be creative, though, with additional sort of revenue sources. I'll give an example of that. Our visitor guide, which we used to outsource, we now design it all and sell the ads internally, so that it is a revenue generator for us. So we want to make sure that we're diversifying our revenue sources so we're not completely reliant just on the hotel tag.
The big conversation lately has been, and it's not just in Annapolis, but it is certainly here, but Airbnbs and STRs, short-term rentals and everything else like that, if done properly and they're licensed and everything else, I'm presuming they also, out of that fee that I pay to Airbnb, that there's a little slice in there that they send to the county that sends to you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. And that's exactly how it's supposed to work. So I should take a step back real quick with our role in this, right? So we're not agnostic when it comes to accommodations, but we want them to be safe, regulated, consistent for our visitors, right? So if you have a good experience, you're going to come back. If you have a bad experience, you're not going to come back. So the idea of regulation and enforcement is really important to us.
Well, it does make sense. I mean, you want to make sure that when I go up here to the Graduate Hotel, I know that I'm getting a clean room and it's a safe room, and if something breaks in that, they're going to fix it, or they're going to turn around and move me to another room that is cleaner or safer like that. When you get a licensed Airbnb, and and I know the city just needs to figure out how they want to do these inspections and everything else, and that's all again in the weeds that they're going to be doing. But there's a growing number of people that prefer that over a hotel.
Absolutely.
And let's be real, they're not. They used to be nice and cheap, and now they're not. They're competing or maybe exceeding some of the hotel rates that you see in a lot of cities.
Absolutely. And that's a totally different experience, right? So if you're renting an entire home, it's really different than having a room in a hotel. And so we know that our visitors want both. So we want to make sure that we are consistently working with all of our partners to have those accommodations. You can stay on a short-term rental on a boat. That's pretty impressive, right? I did that in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
It was amazing. You can't get that same experience. So I think that our job really is to advocate and be the voice of the visitor. And so visitors don't get a vote in the destination. So that is our voice to make sure that we have that diversity of experience, whether it's accommodations or even music.
Well, you're kind of telling the visitors, saying, okay, well, now you're here. What kind of experience do you want? Do we want a maritime focused experience? Do we want to, roll the dice?
Or history, like because you mentioned that before. It is interesting. I think one of the problematic things when it comes to destination marketing organizations, because we are so reliant on hotel taxes, we then become very transaction based. And I will tell you, with our staff, our board, and our partners, we made a very big effort to be visitor focused. So if we're focused on that visitor experience, we're not just focused on that end result and that tax dollar. And we know that if we're focused with all these other partners, those overnight stays will happen.
It's build it and they will come.
Exactly.
If they will.
Market it and they will come. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
There you go. Well, visitannapolis.org is your website. And I did notice on there that you've got this foundation thing, which is fairly new.
Yes, it is.
How does that work? What does it do? And can you talk to me a bit about that?
I would love to. So it's just about 2 years old now. So it's still very, very in its infancy stage. When we went through our strategic planning process for the 501c6 of Visit Annapolis and Arundel County, it became very clear that our partners wanted us to get involved in issues outside of marketing and management of the destination. And where they really focused were some big areas, but mostly around workforce. They did not have the pipeline for workforce. They were not able to retain employees. They were not able to bring people back after COVID. And so we started a foundation to really focus on workforce, but it's flexible enough as, let's say we solve for workforce, we can still attack directly with this 501c3 those hidden burdens of tourism, whether that is affordable housing, whether it's transportation, whatever it might be.
So how do you work with the workforce? Okay, I've got a hotel here and I'm having a tough time with retaining employees. How does the Visit Annapolis and Anne Arundel County Foundation work with that?
So the good news is we're really good partners with Anne Arundel County Workforce Development Corporation. Okay. So that's really important. I'm the vice chair of that board. So there is definitely absolute alignment.
A little bit of you're an EPO baby. Okay.
Yeah. But you can't sit there and say workforce is important and not put the time into workforce development, right? And Shannon Harcum, who's the COO for Visit Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, is the executive director for our foundation. And she and I work on a hospitality collaborative. So what we do is we bring in all of our partners who are dealing with workforce issues and address issues directly with workforce development. They help us staff that out. So we work with them to get grants to do different sorts of training and all sorts of things where there's some multi-language things that we're working on with them. So we're really making sure that we are advocating on behalf of hospitality and tourism, not just workforce in general. And I think that was the disconnect before between our organizations.
I think that Anne Arundel County has done a pretty good job of that. I remember when, we were all rolling around in the mud about casinos and slot machines and everything else. Anne Arundel Community College stepped up and said, hey, okay, we need dealer programs.
Oh my gosh, that was an amazing thing they did.
They created a whole curriculum for casino, I don't want to say operations, because that's a little bit deeper than what it is.
But for dealers, all sorts of things.
For
Absolutely.
the dealers and hospitality and everything else. You look when marijuana got legalized and you've got, they're developing a curriculum now for, bud tenders and everything else that goes, all the little accessory goes that. And I mean, it makes perfect sense that you're working with workforce development to find the people that are there. And what's the biggest challenge for the tourism industry? I mean, as far as workforce, I imagine a lot of it has to do with money.
I can tell you two biggest things that keep people out of the workforce, whether it's in hospitality or elsewhere: childcare and transportation. Those are the two things. So if you don't, then you can get into affordable housing and some other things. But really, that's what keeps people out of the workforce.
Yeah, if you can't get there,
You
and
can't get
and
there
you
if you
don't
don't have a
don't have
car.
a place for your kid.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I mean, I know the childcare costs are just absolutely incredible. I know the city has done some work this past year to be able to increase the capacity on some of these home child cares, and they're looking at some tax breaks for some of the to do that, because I know, certainly when we talked about COVID, and then I really had hoped that we'd get to a point where we wouldn't be referring to COVID at some point and be in the far view mirror, but the impacts of that are still so far reaching, in that so many went out of business, so many people didn't want to work with, and then it's just a snowball.
It's funny that you mentioned, not funny that you mentioned COVID, but I thought we'd be past that by now too. It's unfortunate, but it does give us sort of a baseline. So 2019, we know that 2024, for example, we had more visitors and more economic impact related to hospitality and tourism. What we didn't have was more workers in hospitality and tourism. We're still about, from our 2019 numbers, about 1,000 workers down. So that affects our partners like live casino, our hotels, all sorts of things. So
When you say 1,000 workers, are you talking countywide? Is that-
countywide,
okay.
countywide, yeah. And this isn't unique though, too. In
Sure.
Arundel County. And so we work a lot, as I mentioned, regionally to really address these issues. We've done a statewide job fair back to the foundation to really make sure that people understand the value proposition of hospitality and tourism. I can't tell you how many times people are like, oh, those are dead-end jobs. They are not dead-end jobs. I have board members that started out as a banquet person, now the GM of the largest hotel. I mean, it's amazing. With hard work, dedication, you will be recognized and you will grow with that organization.
I will say that one of my favorite bartenders was up at the Lighthouse Bistro. And for those that are unaware of that, that is a social enterprise. There's folks that have, they've been homeless or maybe some prior incarceration. This is the reset button for them in the hospitality industry. And I went in one time and I'm like, where is he? And it's like, please don't tell me a bad story. And it says, he's hired an assistant general manager over at, and it's not there anymore, but whatever, festival at Riva that was Chili's, and it was Don Julio's or something like that. And I was like, that's so cool.
That's what you want to hear. I always say hospitality tourism, it's full of second chances, right? People get second chances and they're rewarded in it.
Well, it does. I mean, are you familiar with Rise and Shine Bakery?
I am.
And I mean, Elizabeth and Pam are just doing wonderful jobs there. And for those that are unaware, what this is, we'll say, employment challenged, that's my term, people. Is this a single mom? Is this somebody coming that's formerly incarcerated? Is this somebody that has in recovery? Is it somebody that's coming out of homelessness, or maybe perhaps transitioning from homelessness? Let's face it, when you go into a job and it's like, I just got out of jail. I mean, a lot of people are going to put the brakes on. And fair or unfair, I mean, this country is built on second chances, and I think everybody does deserve a second chance, but reality is a little bit different. And this is what they do is they said there, and I can't remember what the numbers, it was like 600, I think, average open baking jobs in the county at any given time. And that could be, working retail in like the new bakery that's opening up on Riva Road, or it could be baking cookies for whatever it may be. But it's like a 12-week program. You turn around, they teach you these skills, how to do it. They teach you some soft skills, how to interview, how to impress people, how to wow people. They give you transportation. They give you a stipend to do it. And when you come out of that, the world's your oyster.
Well, and I think you're right about that. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to start the foundation. We didn't want to recreate what other folks are already doing, but bring people together for those wraparound services. If you do this really well, then we can do this really well. And then sort of putting it all together.
True. On your foundation, when you think foundation, I think like, okay, well, I'm going to write a check. I mean, I'm assuming that you could write a check to the
You can. In fact, I do. And I've done so for 2 years now. But I will say that it is a charitable arm of our organization. So it's under the 501c6. It's a subsidiary organization. We typically go for grants. So they're very directed to workforce. They know that we have the connections there, and they know we have the connection with workforce development. So the bulk of our fundraising is all grant driven around workforce at a state level and at a federal level. We do have a few folks that donate individually, but that isn't the main source of revenue. The other source is, of course, from the 501c6.
Okay. Another thing I want to talk about, and it's actually coming up in the news very as we speak, but you've been pretty instrumental involved in this passenger ferry system that is going out here. And I'm hoping that you can help me wrap my brain around it because it's a little bit difficult for me to get there. And this has just moved on to another phase. I mean, you guys had spearheaded is this even possible phase?
Yes, that's exactly what we did.
To which morphed into yeah, it might have some legs. And now I think we're into the phase where it's like, okay, let's identify the places where we can, have a terminus for a ferry system. And we're talking about a regional ferry, passenger ferry, not cars.
So glad you said that. Yes.
It's
normally the first question.
That will go across the bay and up to Baltimore. And I know the routes are all up in the air at this point, but and it's gotten a very aggressive goal of 2030 to have a boat in water?
So, yes. I think you actually have a very good sense of the project, to be fair. So what you've just outlined is correct. We were part of an initial consortium. We were the lead grantee on that at a federal level. We worked with a number of counties to see if it was feasible. So it was the very first step. The interesting thing about it, it was very narrowly focused. It was very targeted. It was around tourism. We didn't get out of our lane so very big. So we said, is this from a tourism perspective economically feasible? And there was a narrow path forward. But we are not, as a destination marketing and management organization, we shouldn't run a ferry system. We shouldn't have boats. We shouldn't do all of that. That's not our mission. The county, Anne Arundel County, stepped in very quickly using a basis of our study, ended up getting a grant for a couple of ferries, and they're going to work on the first route from Annapolis to Kent Island to Baltimore. And that is now their project. So our role, other than bringing people together to still talk about what could happen next and weigh in on governance and some funding opportunities, we're not in the ferry business. We, thankfully, the county.
Well, and moving forward, you're going to be the cheerleader for the ferry.
You better believe it.
We've got this wonderful ferry here. And I will say that this is totally separate from the ferry that's going to connect Eastport to Annapolis, which is also by a 600-foot bridge too, but we'll let the city.
No, but I will say the good news is that we had conversations with the city really early on, so they understood what we were trying to figure out in our feasibility study and how that could help them. So in our feasibility study, we were able to look at different spots for the city of Annapolis. So that was really good. They were terrific partners there.
Well, here's where I get confused. We're not dense like New York City, Puget Sound. We're not an island, although sometimes Annapolis would like to be their own little island, I think. A water commute to Baltimore, it's not very attractive because, it's 60 plus minutes. We've got 6 miles out of the harbor and into their harbor and everything else. Certainly, you look at Kent Island, you look at Crisfield, you look at Baltimore for tourism. But is this like a one and done deal for a visitor?
So great question. Our study really did focus on the visitor, right? To make sure what we sort of imagined, to be fair, is they start in Annapolis and they stop in all these places and they have overnights all around the bay. To me, that would be an amazing connection that they stay.
That'd be an amazing vacation.
It would be. And you didn't have to own your own boat, which is great. So the best thing is to have somebody else with a boat, right? But again, we were limited in just tourism. So there were sort of event-based things, festival-based things to say that we could bring in an additional route, say to go to Sandy Point for an event there. So it wasn't all just cars going there. So our study really focused on that visitor experience and getting the tourist on the water. What the city of Annapolis, and I believe certainly the Anne Arundel County, is looking to widen the audience to have, commuters as well. As somebody who lives on Kent Island in Queen Anne's County, I would love to be able to take that
Trader.
I would love to be able to take a ferry to work and get off there and just walk up City Dock to this office.
Well, again, you're in a position. Okay, well, let's talk about Kent Island. Let's talk about St. Michael's or maybe Crisfield or something like that. Annapolis is. You get into Baltimore, you can get there. You've got a lot of transportation options when you step off the boat in Baltimore. Okay, you can get on the bus, you can get on the MARC, you can walk certainly, and everything else. Annapolis, to a degree, okay, you can get off the boat, you can walk, you can call an Uber, little shuttles around town and stuff like that. So you're talking mostly geared toward the overnight crowd. Is that what we're looking at? Because it just seems to me like, okay, fine, we can dump somebody into Crisfield for the day, and not a whole lot going on down there.
Great. Oh, so I am so glad you brought that up. in our feasibility study for every destination that we looked at, so the 5 counties that were part of it, for sure, the consortium, but also any stop along the way. You mentioned St. Michael's. Talbot County was not part of the consortium, but they were part of the study. We wanted to make it the most robust study to say, is this really going to work? What that conversation did is sort of spurred those different destinations. What do we need to do to be visitor ready? And so for Queen Anne's County, and I can say that because they're part of that first leg, they're looking at multimodal transportation. Once you land there on this ferry, what then gets you across Queen Anne's County, certainly across Kent Island. So
Okay, so multimodal, we're
yes,
talking about maybe having a bunch of bike racks there with
exactly.
scooters and bike racks. You're going to have maybe a county-sponsored shuttle that runs every...
Could be, yes. And that's what every destination really was challenged to do. Like, all right, so this ferry is going to stop in this town. You don't have a public bathroom. You don't have a place to get water. You don't have X, Y, and Z, shelter. What can you do to then build that destination up to be able to welcome those visitors?
Right. And another thing I did just reading on recently that came out that you guys have switched from, you were initially looking at like an electric ferries,
So,
and now it's
yes.
sort of a hybrid thing now.
We've looked at a number of our study was agnostic. It did not say you should have this kind of ferry. There are so many different types of ferries, so many different types of technology, and I do not want to wade into that because I will get that wrong. That is not an area of expertise for me, so I will let the transportation folks weigh in on that. But we've been able to look at a lot of different ferries, and so right now, the original grant for the county was focused on electric ferries, but now it doesn't have to be necessarily electric focused. So there are some different options there with infrastructure, with gas, diesel, all of that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
It's
And,
exciting. It is exciting.
It's, because I mean, when you've got a cool ferry thing, I know my daughter lives up in Manhattan. She's got a new apartment, and there's literally a ferry.
Congratulations on her wedding.
Yeah.
I saw some great photos.
Yeah, she just stepped out from her apartment, and there's the ferry there. She can be in Midtown in like 12 minutes. Now, it's not exactly where she wants to go in Midtown, but she also can go from her work down in the financial district, 30-minute ferry ride. But I'm like, Friday afternoon, they got booze on the ferry. That's exactly.
They did look at amenities as part of the study. Yes.
That's absolutely where it is. So it'd be interesting to see where it is, because it'd be nice to have a different option to be able to get there. As far as commuting goes, I'm not sure that if I'm working in Baltimore or if I'm working in Annapolis, I'm using that as the commute. Because I mean, there used to be a guy that lived over on the Broadneck side of the Severn River, and he used to paddleboard into Annapolis as his commute.
That's impressive.
He was like a 3-piece suit. He rolled up like the bicycle, roll up the pants with the rubber bands on there. And he would just, and he worked in the building that's going to be the apartments down at the bottom of the main street next to Mills.
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
And, he'd put it there, but it stunk when it rained, in the middle of the day. What do we do? So we've got to, we'll take an Uber or something to get back home. But it was, it was his exercise, and it worked out really well.
Pretty cool picture too.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, you've been here, I would say newish because I've been chasing you for like so, but it's
You're not gonna let that go, are you?
You've been here what, 5 years?
4 years.
4
4
years.
years. Yeah.
You've seen a lot of change in 4 years. Had a lot of challenges, certainly. Conquered a lot of challenges, I think. So let's crystal ball for me. Where do you see us in 10 years for this?
Great question.
That's when they say City Dock may be done.
That would be fantastic. So then City Dock is done. Let's go with that. We would have a footprint down at City Dock so that we could welcome visitors there. By, we have a 10-year lease at BWI Marshall. So we will certainly be well entrenched there, working with all the destination marketing organizations from across Maryland. We are at a point with the Arts and Conference Center down the street that we've done a feasibility study, site fit analysis, and the next study will be a cost analysis to see if that actually could go forward.
And that's down on Row Boulevard? No,
that's down West Street, right next to the Westin at Park Place.
Oh, okay. So it's the old
MC3, yes. And they are still involved. They are the property owner right now. And we partnered with the Arts Council to really see, Anne Arundel County Arts Council, to see if this is in fact something that we can move forward with. So that's been a great project because it brought the conferencing and the arts together, which again, travel and tourism and the arts go together so well. So it's been a really great experience there.
Well, I do want to shout out, because you guys put out a monthly, I call it the S to do this month.
Yes.
You've got a fancier name for it, but it is.
It's just a calendar, but yes.
It is a wonderful resource. It is a wonderful resource for anybody that's visiting here, but it's just an equally wonderful resource for anybody that lives here or has just happened to be in the area. And I do recommend everybody just sign up for that at visitannapolis.org. And as the CEO of Visit Annapolis, if you lived outside of the area, which you somewhat do, but let's say outsider of the
I don't
area,
feel like an outsider.
and you could come in for any event that you wanted. What are your top events that Annapolis and Arundel County puts on?
That's not fair. That's like picking your favorite
No,
child,
I'm not asking you to pick your
right?
favorites. I'm just saying, I mean, there's some, okay, I can sit there and I can name like 5 or 6. Okay, you got to come down for a Navy football game
Yes.
at some point. Okay. Not telling you which one, but you come down for a Navy football
Well, they're a
game.
winning season right now, so any game is good. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You want to come down probably for the Lights Parade, the Eastport Lights Parade.
Do you know I had never done the Lights Parade because that was always Army-Navy weekend. So I worked at the Naval Academy.
Army-Navy weekend.
Right. But then when I got this job, I didn't have to go up to Philadelphia. So I got to be a judge on the Lights Parade. And that, I will say that was something that surprised me because I'd always heard of it but never experienced it. And that was so nice.
Do you know what else they do on Army-Navy weekend always? The Chesapeake Bay Pilots Association flies gifts, school supplies, and greens down to Tangier Island from Kent Island. And there's like 60 planes, private planes that are donated because Tangier Island is sinking and they've got all their issues. And then the sand does not grow like evergreens. So they don't have Christmas trees. They don't have wreaths. They don't have...
They deliver holidays.
So they bring that. And then, of course, there's a Santa that comes down with a plane and everything else. And it's really very cool. One time they got rained out on Army-Navy weekend, and I was able to go the following weekend when they rescheduled it. But it's always, I know exactly when it's going to be. I know when the Lights Parade's going to be. Just find out when Army-Navy is. But there are so many different cool events that we have, and I understand that it's putting you on the spot.
I'm prepared for that. I am prepared for that.
I mean, but what are some of the highlights of the events that we've got going on in Anne Arundel County? I mean, Annapolis, I tend to be a little bit more focused on Annapolis, but I mean, Anne Arundel County's got a bunch of wonderful things going on too.
I will say anything at Sandy Point State Park is amazing. I just love going there. It's just it's on my way home, so that's really convenient for me. But I will say, I think now that I have this role, I think about the assets we have and the opportunities differently than I did before, right? Because I was like, I just like doing this. But the fact that we have the Chesapeake Bay here, it's just, that's something that you could take for granted being a resident here, but getting out on the water in any way, probably not a suit and a paddleboard, but I definitely, any other way is probably what I'd recommend for sure.
It amazes me all the time when I talk to people at the Maritime Museum and they sit there and they say they have local kids, not just the ones from, Western Maryland that happen to come down here for a field trip, saying that they've never been out on the water. And to see the looks on these kids' faces when they pull up a crab off the end of the pier, when it's
a whole new experience, right? It opens your whole world.
It truly is. And Anne Arundel County is just so rich in what we have. I mean, you look at, South County, you've got the agriculture, you've got agritourism is something that's growing worldwide, but the Hall at Live brings in some amazing talent and concerts, as does Ram's Head on stage here. We've got
Maryland Hall, Chesapeake Arts Center, the arts for the communities. Yeah.
It's all over. I mean, I'll throw my pitch to you. And I think this would be the best idea in the world. Okay. Because in the summertime, everybody has their own little concert series and they all fight about it. So why doesn't anybody crack the whip? That would be you, and say, okay, Maritime Museum, you have Monday, Town Center, you've got Tuesday, Quiet Waters, you've got Wednesday, City Dock, Art and Public Places, you've got whatever it is like that, and give everybody their day, and then jointly market this to the visitors coming in, saying, hey, if you come in here between Memorial Day and Labor Day, that
you'll have live music every night,
every single night,
right,
in less than a $5 Uber ride, if you will. Most of them you can walk to. And it may not be your music. I mean, I don't like country, so fine, but it's available to you live out. I mean, how powerful. I mean, it's like,
I would like for us to get to that point that we shouldn't do the programming for our partners, but we should be able to help them coordinate it better. And I say it a lot with the arts. It's easy to compete against ourselves. And why are we doing that? We're doing that for the residents and the visitors. So let's spread it out and spread it over an entire year, not just seasonally.
Oh, I totally agree. I think it's great. The other one I talked to back when Debbie owned Watermark, and I mentioned it to Jake and stuff like that because the Art and Public Places Commission has that great outdoor art book that they published. And I'm like, why is there not a tour? A golf cart tour or a walk? Well, it's probably a golf cart tour because the walking tour would be a little bit because it's spread out. But I mean, we've just really evolved in large part thanks to the mayor sticking his heels in and painting that mural on the front of his restaurant into just a wonderful arts community. And anywhere you look, you can sit there and see that. And I mean, I think, when Jackie has come into Maryland Hall, I mean, Maryland Hall has really stepped up their programming this year is absolutely incredible.
Couldn't
For
agree more.
anybody that has not visited Maryland Hall or checked out their website, marylandhall.org, you'll be absolutely blown away and amazed. I mean, just from, there was a free thing with Abby Phillip. We had Ignite just recently. That's off the charts. We're so lucky to have that. Plus the resident companies that we have that, I mean, we bat way out of our range with, with the symphony and the opera and the ballet. And it's, we are so fortunate here to be able to do that. And again, as you mentioned, a lot of it jumps into transportation too, to giving the access to some of the people that can't get there. So we need to work on that.
We do. But your point is well taken. The arts community here is so strong and diverse and so interesting. And that's one of the reasons why in June we partner with the Arts Council and sponsor Arundel Arts Month. And it's a very big deal. We're trying to get people all around the county to explore and experience those arts.
When you're able to get out there and see what we have, to be able to see how art is made, to be able to see how, the bounty of the Bay, and that's really trite to sit there and say, but it really is. I mean, the Bay, offers, it offers swimming, it offers paddleboarding, the recreation, and it all falls back into Visit Annapolis and Arundel County that sort of massages it and coordinates it and helps promote it.
We do. And I think that part of our role, and it's a part of our role that I don't know that we've experienced before, really dove into, is making sure that the residents even understand all of these assets that we have. Because I hate that when people are like, oh, it's a hidden gem. Why is it a hidden gem? Like, let's unhide this, right? Let's make sure that people know about this.
No, we should have hidden gem parking spots. That's what we need hidden
Fine,
gems for.
I'll compromise on that one. But it is like, those are the things that kill me, that like you mentioned Muddy Creek, right? We want to make sure that the residents even know that's happening. So I was really glad you brought up our calendar of events, because that's there for residents as much as it is for visitors.
What resident doesn't have a visitor coming in?
Exactly.
And I mean, I've got this Reddit page that we do, and we've got, everything. And I'm getting like, well, what would you do with like little kids this weekend? And I was like, okay, well, are they sportsmen? Navy's playing home. Very few games are totally sold out. You likely can go and get a standing room ticket. And to be honest with you, in a Navy game, on the hill is awesome.
Any seat's a good seat there.
I mean, you can sit in the seat, but the hill is kind of fun.
Yeah.
The balls are coming over there. They beg for you to send them back to them, and it's you sled down, and the kids have a great time on that. And Arundel County's just got so much. It's a wealth of things to offer, and I think that anybody that is not aware of all of the wealth that we have, go check it out. We look at the recreation. I mean, I ride the B&A Trail an awful lot of time. I ride the Cross Kent Island Trail on the South Shore Trail on Sand Island, whatever, the one that goes down to
Rum and Coke.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rum and Coke. And I stopped at a place on the way there and got a rum and Coke.
Perfect.
And I mean, that's looking to expand there. I know Anne Arundel County has worked on their trails. They've now connected into PG County out there at the WB&A Trail with the bridge that's finally fixed. At some point, the goal would be to be able to ride from Sandy Point State Park, your favorite, into DC, all on a trail, which would be amazing to see.
Pretty incredible, right? Yeah, that's a draw.
I really love the B&A Trail because it's so close to the roads and stop. I mean, I will go up there, I will stop, and I'll go get brunch at Brian Baru, or I'll stop and get the park crepes. We've got so much there, and this is, where the resource is. This is the headquarters at Visit Annapolis, and just visitannapolis.org. Sign up for that newsletter. Get that in every month. I guarantee you'll find something and be like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And you guys do a hell of a job on that.
Thank you very much.
What don't we know about Visit Annapolis?
That's a good question. I feel like we covered a lot.
What don't you know about Visit?
And that'd be a whole nother podcast, right? One of the things I think it's really interesting, I mentioned that we worked regionally, right? We focused a lot on the leisure traveler and the resident in our conversation so far. But one of the things we are responsible for bringing in international visitors and groups and meetings to the destination, because that's really good business for our BWI airports and even the community around here that has, conference rooms, all of that. So we have a Meet in Maryland partnership that's run by Visit Montgomery. We all work together to bring business into the state, which is wonderful. And then for the international, we're the lead destination marketing organization for that. So we have a partnership with the Office of Tourism Development for the state of Maryland, as well as Visit Baltimore and Visit Frederick, to really figure out how to bring international visitors into the state. And so that's really exciting because we're not just marketing us, we're marketing the entire state.
Sure. How big I mean, we're not I know at one point they said, oh, we didn't have enough hotel rooms for our visitors. I don't think that's the issue now. I mean, in the general what you might consider Annapolis.
Greater Annapolis, right? Yeah.
What is our capacity? I mean, I Joe said convention, and we don't do conventions, but we do conferences, which are little itty bitty conventions.
Right.
But what's our capacity? I mean, what size of the organization could come to Annapolis?
Right now, we are limited a little bit in size. Our largest place to have a meeting or conference would be Live. And they can handle quite a bit depending on sort of all the, I'll say, configurations that they do. So they've been a terrific partner. We just brought in the Scrabble championship with them.
Oh, yeah.
I have to tell you, I'm not a Scrabble player, but I like board games, but I'm not a Scrabble player. It was the coolest thing to walk in with a couple hundred people in that event area just focused on their games. They have a whole language, culture. It was amazing. It was really just introducing to those folks to Anne Arundel County was worth every moment we spent getting that piece of business. So those are the types of things that once you introduce these people to the first time to Anne Arundel County, they come back. So they're there for whatever, and they come back with their spouse.
Sort of like I think cruising. I mean, people were like, you hate cruises. I'm like, what I do is I the experience, okay, being crammed on this little boat with 4,000 of my best friends and stuff, I can probably live without that. But I do love that I get to a port or a destination and I get a little taste of it.
Mm-hmm. And you can
And
decide if you want to come back.
and I sit there and a lot of times what I'll do when I do a cruise, I'll hire a local cabbie as opposed to any other tour things and say, hey, take me around, show me around. I want to get a lunch at this place, at a local place and stuff like that. And you sit there and at the end of the day, you go, wow, that was a really cool place. So let's explore that a little bit deeper and come back.
I mean, that's exactly why you really do want to focus on the meetings. One, because it's good business to get for a destination marketing organization, but you're introducing it and they do come back. And we find that people come back to Annapolis. They come for, let's say, a day trip and they come back for an overnight. So
I hear that time and time again. It's we've come back and you look at some of the graduates that come through the Naval Academy. So many of them, right now, a lot of them have come back to invest in the town.
Absolutely, which is great to see.
I mean, we've got 4, I believe, former superintendents that are living in town right now, which is pretty cool. Which
Annapolis is in their blood, which is great.
But what is the largest capacity? I mean, for an organization? I mean, Live, I know can have like 10. I mean, seated like for 10,000 or something.
I think that's probably a little big for them, but I don't know that exact number.
Okay.
Again, it would depend on the configuration, what the requirements are.
But I mean, we've got larger rooms. We've got rooms at the low or the lows at the Graduate Hotel. We've got the West End.
You got a couple hundred there in each of those.
Right, and then you've got the other kind of under construction down there with the waterfront.
Right.
As well with that, and that'll be exciting when Atlas finally gets there. It will be. Get the thing, and we'll clear up the rumors on Atlas. Okay, no, they didn't pull out of there. They did run into some construction problems, and I was talking to Alex the other day, and he said that they're now looking to probably May.
I'm glad that you said that because there's a lot of conversation around it, not a lot of ground truth.
Is when they're looking to be open in May now at this point. And
the level of investment that they're making in the community is pretty outstanding.
They really are. They've been a great community partner. I know before they even, I think even before they opened Chop Tank, they had turned around and opened the pool at Harbor House, and they wrote a check to said, hey, there. I mean, there are bands in the sand. There are sponsorship there, and they work with us on one of Alex's staff members is on our foundation board, so they are a huge employer in the area. So we work very closely, and they're a very fair employer. Yes, I will say. Good to hear. All right. Anything else? No, I think you've covered everything. Well, I think it's great. I want to thank you so much for your time again. I want to thank you for what you're doing. Again, remind everybody, visit Annapolis.org. Go there, get on that email list if you don't do anything else, but poke around there. Find out everything that's there. There's a wealth of information. You guys are putting it all together, and it's here's to the next 10 years. Well, and thank you for being such a great ambassador for Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.